So I've read a lot of books lately. Hey there, it's Mitzi. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to update you on what I've been reading in February. So in February, my main priority was the Little House Readathon. That was last week. It was February 7th through the 10th. And so I started on February 1st for that readathon because I wanted to read all the way through the Little House on the Prairie series, all the books in the series. I've read those before. It's been a long time. And I don't know that I've actually read them so quickly that way. I've never just sat down and said, okay, I'm going to read the first one and then go through immediately. I would just, sporadically get one and read it like that. So this time I thought it would be fun just to go through the entire series back to back. And I really enjoyed that. So that was the first thing that I did, and that was a priority. Elizabeth over at Lizzie Faye Loves Books, she hosts a wonderful Little House Readathon every year. And again, that takes place the 7th through the 10th. So this year the group read was The Long Winter, and so that was one of the reasons I started on the 1st to make sure I got to The Long Winter. But that wasn't a problem because every day I just read another one. I actually listened to it on audio. I had the book form, of course, too. But I would have this on my nightstand, and then during the day I would multitask by having the audio go because I'd never actually listened to the audio version, which was fantastic. I think it was the same narrator for the entire series, and that was nice too. They had some fiddle playing, like Pa playing the fiddle and singing. So that was a little extra that I didn't have by just reading the physical copy. But I did have the physical copy, and I read along at night with the book, and then during the day I would listen to the audio, and that was a lot of fun. The audio did help me go a little faster because I could multitask, listen while I did chores around the house too. So that was a lot of fun. Thank you to Elizabeth for the Little House Readathon. I really enjoyed it. So I wanted to mention one thing from this book. This is Little House in the Big Woods. This is the first one in the series. And as I was reading, I tabbed a place because this is one of the reasons I love the Ingalls family. And it's a section at the beginning of the book, so the beginning of the series, and the chapter is Winter Days. And they're talking about all of the tasks that they have, the chores to do, and everyone is assigned something to do. And it says, after this was done, Ma began the work that belonged to that day. Each day had its own proper work. Ma used to say, wash on Monday, iron on Tuesday, mend on Wednesday, churn on Thursday, clean on Friday, bake on Saturday, rest on Sunday. And I loved that about this book. That was one of the things that I really love about the Little House on the Prairie series, is because everyone takes part. Everyone has a special place in this family. Everyone's well loved, but everyone is also to do their part, and they all have their own assigned chores. They all have their special purpose within the family, and I love that about it. It also was nostalgic for me because Mama worked the same way. I remember she had certain days to do certain things, and there were 4 girls. Daddy worked a lot, and so she really had to do a lot of things to keep up with all of us and all the things that we had going on. And I remember on Saturdays especially, she had a certain list of things to do, and she would get up early, fix us a big breakfast so we wouldn't be coming in and out of the kitchen. We all had chores too to do, we had our things to do. But I remember she would get in there and wash all the bedclothes and clean up the house, and she would always prepare for Sunday dinner so that when we got home from church, because we were starving when we got home from church on Sunday. So on Saturday afternoons and the evenings, she would prepare all that she could for the Sunday dinner. So like she would take a pizza pan, and all the biscuits would be made up. She would pat them out and put them on this biscuit pan, and then she would freeze them, put them in the freezer. And so when she got home from church, she would just take and pop that in the oven, and they would be ready for us for Sunday dinner. So it was things like that she would do. She would press over all our dresses. She would have her dresses hanging, and our shoes would be under our dresses with the offering envelope in them. So she was very organized, and she had a system like Ma Ingalls, and so that was something I thought about. Mama did a good job because I do the same thing. On Saturdays, I have my whole routine. Now this past Saturday, we had the Book 2 Besties reading retreat. So Saturday was a little different for me. But because it was virtual, I was still able to do all my chores, my Saturday routine. So that made it wonderful to be able to do that. But on Saturdays, I don't like to have other things to do. Now, of course, you know, sometimes you'll have a birthday party or wedding or something else to do. But I don't plan things on that day intentionally because I do like my Saturday routine. I like to do certain things on that day, and other days of the week I have a little routine too. So Mama did a great job of helping me kind of organize myself and keep up that routine. So I thought about Mama when I was reading about Ma Ingalls in the Little House on the Prairie series. So I do highly recommend that series. It is definitely prairie days, hard work, family life, and it's a wonderful series. Middle grade. So if you're trying to think of something for middle grade March, that would be a great series to get started. I also read a couple of other books that are related to the Little House on the Prairie series. I read On the Way Home by Laura Ingalls Wilder. This is just a journal, like a diary format of a journal of that Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote, and her daughter tells a little bit at the beginning and end to explain what this is, and then in the middle it's just diary entries of their trip. So there is a great map, and I love maps anyway, and there is a map at the beginning of this story, or the beginning of this journal, and it is, I'm trying to find the map, I just saw it, let me see. It shows the journey. So they left here and traveled all the way by wagon to here. And so as you're reading the book, you can refer back, and that's what I did. So I would read the town that they were passing through, and I would come back to this map and look to see how far they had gone. And so that's what this book is. It's about them traveling this journey. I loved it. Now, it is very basic. There's not even any emotion. You don't know if she's happy, sad, whatever, because she just, August 23rd, started out at 7:30. The country looks nice this morning. At 9:35, we came to Pedro, a little town on one side of the railroad tracks, and that's how it is the entire time. So she basically just tells where they are, when they start off the next day, maybe what they ate or who they met along the way. There's no emotion in this at all. It is straightforward. Here's where we are. This is what we did today, and this is what we did the next day. I thought it was funny too at the beginning. She's telling the temperature. So every day it would say 102 degrees or whatever, which at the beginning I really was paying attention because it was mighty hot when they started this. I think they started in July, and it was mighty hot. But then they lose the thermometer, so she doesn't give the temperature anymore. And on one of her entries, she was like, lost the thermometer. So we didn't get the temperature anymore. And I did notice that because I was enjoying seeing what the temperature was each day because it was mighty hot on this dusty trail that they were taking. I did enjoy this. I loved it, but I am a Laura Ingalls Wilder fan. So if you are super into the Little House on the Prairie series or Laura Ingalls Wilder, you probably would love this too. But again, it's just a diary entry, a journal entry of Laura Ingalls Wilder and this one trip where they moved from one place to another. But I did love it, and if you are a fan like me, you might enjoy picking that up too to add to your collection. I checked this one out from the library, but I want to pick up my own copy. Another one I checked out from the library was called The Three Faces of Nellie, the real story behind Laura Ingalls Wilder's Nellie Oleson. This was written by Robin Elizabeth Miller, and I loved this too. Again, it wasn't very long, but it tells the story of the three women that Laura Ingalls Wilder knew growing up, and these are the three women she based Nellie Oleson on. So there was a Nellie Owens, and there was a Willie, Nellie and Willie Owens. And that's who she talks about in the book in the beginning when they're younger and in school. But then as she goes on to make the story just simpler, not to have too many characters, she continues with Nellie Olson throughout the series when they're older. And actually, in real life, Nellie and Willie moved away, and so did Laura. They moved to different places and they didn't meet ever again. But this kind of explains all of that. There is a Nellie, who is the original, and then there was a Genevieve that some of the incidents in the Little House on the Prairie series is based on, but she's called Nellie in the series. And then there is an Estelle. I think her name was Estelle. So there were 3 different ladies, and so this kind of just gives you historical records of these 3 ladies, where they moved to, who they married, their children, those kind of things. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was super interesting because, I mean, we all are interested in Nellie, right? But the problem with this was, again, it was so short that there wasn't enough information. And I think the author did the best she could with, you know, finding records and interviewing people, but there just wasn't that much information on these 3 ladies. So she did the best she could, but again, I wanted to know more about each one of them, especially the first one, Nellie Owens, because Willie was what I was fascinated by in the story. There were things about Willie Owens, or Willie Olson as we know him, that I didn't know. And so I was interested in that, and I wanted to know more about him. And he's told, you know, there's some details of what this author could find in here, but now I'm curious to know more. So I would love a book just on Willie. But this was a good one, and I highly recommend it, again, if you are a Laura Ingalls Wilder fan. So that was one I checked out from the library as well. And then I also checked out a couple of picture books. One of the picture books was Sugar Snow. This is just a picture book. There's a whole series of these picture books, and they are excerpts from the Little House on the Prairie series. This one is from, Sugar Snow is a chapter in Little House in the Big Woods, I think. So it's just the actual events of that chapter in picture format, and it's really pretty pictures, and just a sweet little celebration of the story. If you're a huge fan, these are great for read alouds for young children as they become accustomed to the Little House series. If you're a person who wants your kids to get invested in the Little House books, this would be a great place to start. I really enjoy these. I pick these up from time to time. And again, there's several in this series. And then I also picked up this. This is not Little House related, but I picked up this book because I had received an email. They had announced the Caldecott winner, and so I wanted to check out the Caldecott winner. If you're not familiar with the Caldecott medal, that is an award given out each year for illustrations in a children's picture book. And this one was Hot Dog by Doug Salati, I think is how you say it. So of course my library had it, and I wanted to pick that up and check it out. This was really a fun one too. I enjoyed the pictures, of course, is what it's about. Beautiful colors and vivid illustrations in it, and it's about this little dog going to the beach, basically, with its owner, going through the city to the beach and then back home again. It's a very simple little story. It's a sweet story, but the pictures, to me, I did notice that there is a trend now in picture books and even in middle grade books with this whole graphic novel mentality. I see a lot of books now with these panels, and I think that is becoming a big trend now. Let me know in the comments if you've noticed that, but there's a lot more panels like in a comic book or a graphic novel. I've noticed that's become more popular, and that's how this is set up as well. But I did enjoy that, and if you are interested in picture books, you might want to check out the Caldecott winner. Then I picked up a few other books that were, well, a couple of books that were Little House related. The first one's called Maybe by Caroline Starr Rose. This I picked up because you had told me about it. Several viewers, when I mentioned that I enjoyed the lyrical format for middle grade, Out of the Dust, which is a Newbery winner. It's a middle grade Newbery. I love that book, and it is about the Dust Bowl, and it is written in this lyrical format that I just really enjoy. So several of you, when I've mentioned that before, mentioned this book, Maybe, and it is also written in that lyrical form, but it is set on the prairies in Kansas, just like Little House on the Prairie. So if you enjoy Little House on the Prairie like I do, you might want to pick this up. And again, it's in that lyrical form, which is something different. So this one is about a little girl named Mavis. Her nickname is Maybe, and that's talked about. There's a theme to that in the story. But Mavis is hired out by her parents to stay with a newlywed couple. The man has started his pioneer life out in Kansas, and he's brought this city girl with him, and she doesn't know much about living on the prairie. And so Mavis goes over to live with them, I think like in September, and her father tells her, or her pa tells her, that he will pick her up right before Christmas. So she's going to be there throughout the fall, all the way up until Christmas time. And she moves in with them, and the story goes from there. Actually, the newlywed wife is just a couple of years older, I think, than Mavis. So that's what the story is about. The problem I had with this story was, I did love the lyrical part, but that was the problem I had also, because there are a lot of themes in this story. In this story, we have a girl that is dyslexic. We have loneliness. We have prairie life. We have the theme of gender expectations at this time period, and just surviving, on the prairie. So there are so many themes that it was just too much for this format, because there's not many words on the page. So if you're trying to squeeze all those themes in and you're writing such a short book, it's just hard to do that. By the end of the book, because of these hard themes, these were tough themes, it was just too hard. It was just too almost depressing by the end. All of these ended up feeling more negative than anything, and there was no positive, because there was no room for any hope or encouragement, because we're squeezing all these themes in. I hope that's making sense. So anyway, I do recommend the book. I thought the book was written beautifully, but by the end of it, I just felt like, being critical about it, I just felt like she was trying to squeeze in way too many themes for this lyrical format. One or two of those themes would have worked fine for this format. But I feel if you're going to try to deal with that many themes, especially in a middle grade, you need a little more room to stretch the story out and maybe go with a novel format. However, I did enjoy the lyrical part. It was told beautifully. It was just by the end, there was no room for hope and encouragement. And especially in a middle grade, I want some hope and encouragement by the end of it. So this was Maybe by Caroline Starr Rose. And if you're participating in Middle Grade March, one of the prompts, they were just announced, and she is a neurodivergent character, so you might want to pick that up. She's the main character in this, and that would fulfill that prompt for Middle Grade March. And then I read Hattie Big Sky. This is a Newbery Honor book written by Kirby Larson. I loved this. This was another one for the prairie theme. This one is about a young girl who, her uncle has a homestead claim in Montana, and he leaves it to her. So she's only 16 and she's an orphan. She travels to Montana to take this inheritance, which was her uncle's homesteading claim. And she has so long, because I think it's like 3 years, he has certain things to do to the land in order to claim it. So she has so long to do that. And it's about her life there on this prairie in Montana, on this homestead, and she's trying to do all the things necessary right by herself to keep this land. It is a great story. It's about found family, and actually the Spanish flu is mentioned in here. There's also World War I. There's a lot of themes in this one too, just like Maybe. The difference is this is a novel, so there was room to stretch out and explore a lot of those themes. I highly recommend this. I thought it was a beautiful story. It reminded me a little bit of Last Christmas in Paris, which that's an adult historical fiction. This is middle grade. But the reason it reminded me is because in the Last Christmas in Paris, just as in this one, the main character is writing to a friend who is off in the war, in World War I, and so is this character. In the Last Christmas in Paris, the main character starts writing newspaper articles about her experience at home while the men are fighting in the war. And in this one, she starts writing for the paper about homesteading and her experience as a young girl homesteading. So there are similarities between the two. That's it, but it did remind me of that because I do like letter writing. There's letters throughout this and those newspaper articles. The way that they used it was the same way to convey different details. They used it in the same way, so I found that interesting, and I highly recommend this. Again, if you are participating in Middle Grade March, one of our prompts this year is sky on the cover. Well, there's definitely a sky on this cover, and Sky, Hattie Big Sky, is part of the title. So you definitely could read this for Middle Grade March to fulfill one of your prompts. So I highly recommend this one. So those are the things I've been reading in February. What have you been reading? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.